This is Chris Kill with our next presentation on our client goal setting blueprint. So we have our client information. We've talked to them. We figured out who they are, what they want. Now we're going to start to talk about how we can put it into a program. So one of the big takeaways from our presentation today is that keeping things simple is really the key to success. I have made a lot of mistakes in that area in my career, and one thing that I could say is that if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, then you really don't understand it yourself. And that really is the idea behind today's presentation. Is we don't need to know a lot about periodization, program design, et cetera, to create a good program. We just have to be kind of practically minded as far as what the client will actually do. So with that in mind, some mistakes that I've made in the past: I've given the client far too much. I'd give them a very time-intensive program. I've designed very complex variables and tempos and all kinds of mess. And I've given them really structured diets and calorie logging information when it's information overload. Okay, and so for the person that's a 5 that is good, they've demonstrated that, or they've told you that like they're ready to roll, then you can do some of this. Whereas the person though that is a 1, or even a 3 that's less motivated, that maybe isn't working out right now at all, doing nothing, then doing any of this stuff is going to be a very quick death as far as your work with that person. Okay, we want to figure out what the person will actually do and then give it to them. And in today's presentation we'll talk about how to break that down somewhat. So a blueprint session. Client group blueprint sessions are something that we've been doing for several years at our gym, and it's something that I've had a lot of success with. This is kind of the idea of positioning ourselves as fitness consultants versus just trainers. Okay, trainers are people that make people do exercise. That's it. A fitness consultant, a coach, is somebody that creates a program for somebody and helps the person to structure it in their lifestyle. Okay, so the idea behind a blueprint session is, we do the client's evaluation. We go through their goals with them. We talk to them. We figure out what they want. We get all these variables, and then we create a program for them. We create a blueprint and work on in particular areas like for fitness, for nutrition, and then bullet pointed goals that we want from from our blocks, basically blocks of training. So we say, okay, so over the first 8 weeks, we're going to do a 3-day split. We're going to work on, based on what you told me, we're going to work on getting protein and vegetables in at each meal. And since you were interested in doing push-ups or improving your push-up total, your homework is going to be to, maybe walk 10 minutes a day, just to get consistent with that, and do 10 push-ups. Something very, very simple. And for that person, it very clearly defines what we're doing with them, and we give them a chance to collaborate. Okay, we tell them about what their fitness commitment is. We figure out their nutrition commitment, and then we get special habits and items to work on, and we go back and forth with them on that. Okay, I tell them what I want them to do and what I feel would be best for them ideally, but then I need them to sign off on that. And they might say to me, no, you know what, I can't work out 3 days a week. I'm going to start with 2 days a week. Not ideal for me, but I'm going to change in their program to accommodate, again, what they will do. And it's the same thing with nutrition. I've had a lot of clients who have been like, no, I think I can step it up in that area. I'd like to do this instead. And so we try it. Again, I work for the person, not vice versa. So, we're going to try whatever, assuming though that, again, we're collaborating on that. It's not just a one-way street. And so making the client a part of this process is going to give you longevity. Okay, they know what is expected of them, and you know what is expected of you. So you guys have a flexible blueprint. I mean, again, it'll change as things go along. You might have to make some alterations based upon things that happen in life, but this gives us something to work from, and it also, again, gives your client the idea of like, this is what is expected of me very clearly. So we're not just throwing things in on the fly as we're going along, and we have commitment and buy-in from that person. So the process for this, number one, we want to set short and long-term goals. Okay, I want to figure out what is the objective, what is the primary objective for the next, say, 8 weeks. Okay, am I trying to lose 3% body fat? Am I trying to fit into a particular dress? Or do we just want to get the person consistently coming to class? Then for long-term, what is the person's long-term commitment? Is it a wedding in 6 months? Is it the fact that, they are renewing they're going to a class reunion in a year's time, or maybe they just want to, maybe we invent a goal for the person. But again, what is the short-term commitment? What is the long-term commitment? We promote active interests and training mechanisms. So, again, people that come in, maybe they're doing nothing in their off days and they don't want to work, they don't want to walk. It's just not interesting to them. Maybe we have them go out and play frisbee with their kids, or, go join a recreational soccer league. There's a bunch of different things that we can do. But again, this gives the client something that is an active interest that they can pursue, that they might have been interested in the past or they want to get back into. We want to in some way eliminate potential disconnects, okay? And this is just working on, 1 or 2 habits during the cycle. So, if the client's not getting to sleep early enough, if they're getting 3 hours of sleep, or 5 hours of sleep, they're going to bed at midnight, they wake up at 5. Maybe we say, okay, so instead of doing that, let's try to peel it back by 15 minutes every 2 to 3 weeks. If you can do that, then we'll peel it back 15 minutes more until we can maybe add an hour or two to your sleep. And finally, holding the client accountable, meaning like, what is their commitment to you? Check in with them every week in some way. Say, was this done? Was this not done? Again, I'm not texting them every day, but I am checking in with them because I have this stuff written down, and it could just be as simple as you sending 1 text a week and being like, how are the vegetables going with each meal? That makes a huge difference. And again, it just keeps the client being mindful of this, outside of the gym. So the other thing is, when you're going through this with a client, encouraging change talk. Okay, so what is the client identifying as a solution? We're going through the client's program. They might say to me, let's do this versus this. I would like to try that. I'm trying to get away from the idea of like just telling them what to do. I call it trainering, and that's just like being recognized, like the figure of authority, where I'm saying you must do this, you should do this. People get defensive when we use that kind of language. So instead, I'm going to say, this is what I had plans. What do you think about that? Does that work for you? Always putting it back to them is kind of something that, is it working for them or not? In that way, we're imparting ourselves as genuine, honest, and, more of a friend type figure versus like an authority-based figure, which is what we want ultimately. So when we get into goal setting, one thing to notice here is that these people on the right here, again, they're athletes. They know what they're doing on a daily basis when they come in. Their training has purpose. Yes, they're lean and they look like they're in good shape, but that's not because they're training to look like a model or anything. It's because it's just the result of the training that they do. So it's not the desired outcome, but it is an outcome as a byproduct of working hard. So when we talk traditionally about goal setting, 85% of people identify fat loss as their main goal, and 22% of those people who have that goal, just a generalized goal, stick to that for more than 30 days. Something happens, and that is really a damning statistic, really, when we look at retention or clientele. Whereas 82% of clients who identify some sort of time-specific, activity-specific goal, and I say athletic goal here, but it could be either athletic or aesthetic, achieve that, and they stay for longer. And so I would call these 2 effective goal setters. I would also call people that are training for figure and fitness pageants, figure and fitness shows, effective goal setters, because they have an outcome. They know what they want. And neither of these outcomes is wrong. I mean, it's just figuring out what your client wants. From there, we also want to identify long-term interests, and the biggest thing for me is that training is training. Okay, I don't see training as an interest in itself. I think that it's work. All right, I want training to augment application, meaning the client should have some sort of, or not should, but ideally, that we have some sort of a sport or group activity or something that we do. Some clients are going to be okay with just walking with a friend, doing some stuff like that, but others, things like joining a soccer league, joining a softball league, something like that, are going to be necessary, particularly with these extroverts, to get them to view us play. I mean, that's one reason CrossFit is so popular nowadays, is it's the sport of fitness. And so they've actually built that idea into all of their training programs. And so that's why it attracts, a certain personality type, extroverts, ex-military, that kind of thing. And so when you're looking at the client, ask yourself, like, what do they view as fun? what were some things that I asked for that, what were you doing when you were in the best year of your life? And then what exercises could you potentially perform with your family? With that, you're going to get built-in social support and specific application. And so again, it could be throwing a frisbee with their kids. It could be, joining a mommy and me class. It could be co-ed softball, whatever. But something as far as interests go that they view as fun. And this is just for off day stuff. This is something that I think that, is just, an aside for the client to help to get motivated. And so the first category of goals, like just generally that we want to kind of point our clients to, is performance. Okay, and so performance is something that I like to prioritize first, because you can get in great shape on a bad diet, but you can't look better on a bad diet, or you can't look much better. So things like improving a 1 mile run, training for a marathon, training for a 10K. Not a big fan of marathons, but any kind of race. Improving strength in a certain lift, your 10 rep max in a split squat. I have a lady that wants to be able to sit Indian style at a yoga class, and so we're working on her hip external rotation in order to do that. So it's a goal for her. So the overall outcome, could be whatever. I mean, we could call it decreased injury and improved race performance. But we set a specific goal, okay? And again, this would be short term. Maybe in the beginning, for somebody that is training for, say, like a wedding in a year, we begin with a performance related goal just to get them goal setting, and then we kind of SQ into more aesthetic goals, as we go along. But I like to do this first, again, because the buy-in and the barrier to entry is lower. So aesthetic goals, now we're having to take nutrition into account. So this is going to be a little bit harder, but again, this is something that is is popular. And if you look at, most people say they want this, and I'm sure that they do. And if you look at a new trend in fitness today that I've seen a lot in the last 2-3 years, it's women training for figure and fitness shows. This is something that have become more popular in the last few years, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And so for this, again, we're going to have to look at a pretty stringent dietary routine, different things like that. But it doesn't have to be a show. It could be an event that's coming up. It could be just fitting into a dress. So some examples: lose 2 dress sizes for a cruise. Bring out your shoulders in before and after pictures, and then or lose 5 to 7% body fat and get a t-shirt. So the overall outcome, improved appearance. But you can see a couple different ways that we try to get at that. We utilize things like pictures, or we set times for an event, or we give the client a challenge of some kind where we say, okay, if you do this, you get that. So again, there are a whole number of ways based upon the client's personality to address that. But we're just looking at kind of these general categories, and then long term, how we can set short term goals to affect long term change. So our formula is, performance first, aesthetic second. And I only say that because, if the client is just starting to exercise again, performance is going to be something that they'll see changing a lot faster. Aesthetic, again, we have to change more. So that's something that is maybe going to take a little bit longer. If your client is more experienced, if they've done this stuff before, they're currently active, then aesthetic is something that we can attack right away. It just really depends on who we're dealing with. The next one is time sensitive. Is your goal realistic for what the client is currently doing in their life? If they're if they're a busy doctor with 3 kids, is it realistic to train for a marathon? Maybe or maybe not. I don't know. But make sure that what we give them fits into their schedule. Make sure it's manageable with their current lifestyle, which is number 3. Number 4, friend supported. Is there, can we give them a workout partner? If not, do they have a friend that could join? I mean, a good way to really increase your clientele is to say, join with a friend, and get 50% off or something like that. And that way, that friend is going to keep them in. The friend is going to share their goals. And, it's something that, we can help to build a program around for 2 people. And so we ask, what is our 30-day goal? And, then what are the smaller steps that we need, or 30 to 60-day goal? And then what are the smaller steps that we need to, to achieve that goal, such as program design and whatnot. So if we look at, it's just a results-oriented program step by step. Number 1, we pick specific fitness goals for our training blocks. Then we create these blocks based upon what we want the client to do for both fitness, nutrition, and just general goals. And we have some sort of like a test retest, meaning we have some symbol of their progress. We have some marker for progression. So an example for somebody that's training for a wedding in a year, okay, and I kind of alluded to this earlier. Block one, for somebody that's not doing, let's say they're not doing anything at the moment. All we want them to do is just consistently exercise. So we say, okay, you're going to work out for 3 days a week. That's your fitness commitment, your nutrition commitment. We're going to work on cutting out sodas. Your goal at the end of the cycle is to run your first 5K, because you mentioned that, you used to run and that was something that was interesting to you. So once they build that basic discipline, then block two, now we'll say, okay, now we're going to start to talk about reducing your body fat. So we're going to set a very modest goal, 3%, and we're going to incorporate a basic clean eating diet. Okay, simple stuff. All right, I'm not going to, I'm going to give them flexible guidelines. I might tell them, okay, so protein and veggies with each major meal, and try to get 2 snacks a day, something simple like that. So their goal then would be before and afters in a bikini for a beach trip at the end of their cycle. So now we're getting into more an aesthetic goal, which is ultimately what we want long term. Okay, block three. Now that they've achieved a pretty modest goal where they've done well, and they're probably going to lose more than 3%. But I said it there because I want them to kill that, build confidence. Now in block three, we're going to do a lot of our heavy lifting in that we're going to focus on losing 7% body fat. All right, we're going to incorporate treadmill sprints in their off days. We're going to be doing training 3 to 4 days a week. So most commitment is probably going to be in this block three. And we'll incorporate things like doing somebody's macros or carb cycling. Okay, and from here now the goal would be to do before and afters in the wedding dress. So we're getting a little bit more specific what the client's doing. And finally, in block four, then client's probably going to be at their at their weight that they want. The last 90 days, we're going to work on bringing up lagging areas in a wedding dress and incorporate some advanced measures to lose that little bit of extra body fat. And we'll do Polaroids in the wedding dress as a way of looking at, is what we're doing affecting the person positively. So again, this is just an example of what I might do and what I have done in the past with somebody, but it doesn't have to be this intricate or maybe more so. It just depends on you. But have a goal, know what you're doing with the client, kind of fill in that space. What are we doing for fitness? What's the nutrition objective? And then what are the general goals? Are there bad habits that we need to work on? And from there, once you have this stuff plotted out, the program design, selecting exercises, that stuff is easy. We could really do whatever. And really, this is the biggest part of program design is just figuring out logistically, how do we tackle this thing? What will the client actually do? The last step with our program, and one of the big things that we also want to talk about, is eliminating potential disconnects. Okay, and so some things I see a lot, kind of the big three for me: poor sleeping habits. Client gets to bed way too late. They're very stressed out all the time, and it starts to tell. They really, it starts to affect their workouts. They're not getting places on time. I had a girl that was very low in her body fat. She lost a lot of body fat. She got great results, but she was going through a divorce, and she had this large pooch that built up around her midsection. And for a lot of women who internalize their stress, I see this also a lot. There's just like this one area around their belly. When we don't sleep, cortisol, which is stress hormone, builds up around our midsection. And so it's kind of the specific reaction to that. So, that's just one example. But, when we don't sleep, we also tend to miss sessions. Our emotions go out the window, that kind of thing. So that's going to be a big thing to look at. The other thing is a lack of focus, okay, an inability to get specific with what somebody's doing or the perception that exercise takes a long time. In that case, with that person, I might have them do little micro workouts, as we were talking about. I might have them just, break things up, even to the point where we're do 5 push-ups, every hour or something like that. Something very, smaller chunks versus having to do something for, 60 minutes at a time. And so, that also goes along with, our time management issues, poor scheduling, not getting to the gym, that kind of thing. There's a number of different things. But again, what I would say is, based upon what you find, Google it, figure it out, read articles on it, and then come back to the client with some, with some solutions, get them to sign off on it, and then we're really going to be good to go with that. along with that, another thing that we like to do with our clients is give them some sort of an incentive strategy. Okay, so again, the 23-1 rule. You have 1 hour. You have one good hour at the gym. You have 23 hours to screw that up. So if we're not establishing, some way to motivate the client, we're not giving them these ground rules. What are our goals for this cycle? This is what is expected of you, and they see this and they agree to it, and all of these things. Then that's again, they're more likely to leave. They're more likely to just go do whatever. So we want to make things clear. So we give them incentive strategies. We do things like monthly weight loss contest, or just a habits-based contest where you say, okay, I want you to check in 3 times a week. If you get X number of points for checking in, I'm going to give you a mission accomplished T-shirt. So again, they get the idea that A leads to B leads to C, and this is something that, we call it ethical bribery, and that's what it is. But if it gets the client to where they need to be, then that's perfectly okay. So some ways that we hold our clients accountable. We set 8-week personal goals, and we'll do things like weigh-ins. We'll do before and after pictures for our extroverts, and then for us as well. We're going to be texting our clients maybe 2-3 times a week. We also have a Facebook group where we put all of our clients. If you're whether you're doing a group training scenario or not, I'd recommend that. Create a Facebook group for your clients. Put them in there together. Post articles, videos, that kind of thing. That's going to motivate them. Ask questions and tag certain people that have this need in your post, and then get them to respond. It'll create competition. It'll create discussion. It'll create sort of a vibe in your gym. And then daily emails that are sent to our clients. Like I use a program or a website called Aweber that will send a stream of emails. And what I do when our clients sign up is I have an initial kind of like our Foundation 30, I call them, where they get 30 days worth of emails and kind of give them just the slow drip process of what we want them to do. And so I'm kind of just reinforcing it from various angles, so the client gets an idea. But if we broke it down to weekly accountability, really options are before and after pictures, weigh-ins, body comp. You can check their nutrition log, and then have them check in. I like to do it on Monday versus Friday, because oftentimes clients tend not to show up as much on Friday. So I'll leave that to you, but this is an essential component. This is as necessary as anything you do in a fitness context with somebody. So make sure you are holding your client accountable in some way. So as far as accountability contests go, you can do things like performance, aesthetic, or participation. I like to give away T-shirts for participation. If you meet X benchmark of points for doing things, and I'm going to give you a T-shirt or a gift certificate or something like that. We could be doing like an ab selfie challenge. We could be doing push-up challenge. It doesn't matter. For accountability contests, oftentimes, I'm sorry, for participation contests, we're not trying to pick a winner per se. We're just trying to give the client a benchmark to meet. If everybody that does it and meets this benchmark is going to be a winner. Whereas, if we say, okay, we're going to do a group weight loss contest, then we are calling out a winner. And this, again, the group stuff, the achievement portion of things, where we say, okay, the most weight lost wins, a gift certificate or whatever. That's going to appeal more to your extroverts, whereas the participation contest, more for your introverts, for your clients that are just coming in, that need to build some confidence. I'd start them off with a participation contest. As they get in better shape, they build some confidence. They're more consistent with their stuff. Then you can kind of move to this more achievement-based contest structure. But that's kind of how I would do it. So if we So a sample goal setting plan. All right, this is John, and John is a client of mine that I trained a couple years ago. John was the picture of dysfunction. John was a business coach, sat 12 hours a day, didn't like exercise, never done anything, loved junk food, just kind of a lost soul, I guess you could say. But his doctor told him he needed to lose weight, so he's a friend of mine. We decided to try this, and for him, well, the only thing that I got out of him that was of note with fitness is that a lot of his family are in the Navy. So his dad was, I think, it's like a captain in the Navy. His two brothers actually, I think, were Navy SEALs. So for him, he had a lot of respect for the institution of the Navy, and so he wanted to, his dream as a kid was to be a Navy SEAL. So he wanted to. He's like, if I'm going to get fit, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to meet the Navy SEAL standards. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be interesting. But what we did is we broke down the SEAL standards, and so we said, okay, so this block of 8 weeks, we're going to address the push-up standards and the running standards. Okay, so for him, we got him doing 3 total body workouts a week, pretty standard for our beginners. His focused habit was to join a trail running club. His wife was into that, so that helped, and he actually did that. We got him running 3 days a week as well. The other thing is I told him to perform daily push-ups. The more push-ups are motor skills. So the more somebody does them, the more likely they are to really build that up. And so he was pretty successful with that. He went from, I think, doing like 5 push-ups on the floor to 45 to 50 in 2 minutes. So really improved quickly, and we met those standards. And for him, he did flame out after about 6 months, but for him, he got a lot of weight off. He got some good habits, and that's kind of how it works with people. Is that we chip away. They might go away for a little while, but I know for a fact, as I saw him the other day, we had lunch. He made some better choices, and he is doing better generally. So again, it's not always going to be 100% successful, but it gives us a way to work from, and I think that's the biggest thing is that whereas a lot of other group fitness programs and personal training and everything seems to be going just the generalized route, the more specific we can get to a point, the more we're going to be able to charge, the more we're going to be able to get buy-in from the client, the more it's going to be about them versus just a generalized program. And that really is what we want and what's going to set us apart. So again, really the same conclusions. Each client is only strong as their weakest link. Break down your training blocks. Break down a long-term goal into shorter-term objectives. And really spend some time on this with the client. Again, this is an inexact science. This is not something that you'll be able to just master overnight, but it's going to be your homework assignment. Is I want you to practice with some case studies. And really, I would encourage you to practice as much as you possibly can, because at the end of the day, I've done this 1,000 times. The more you can do it, the more successful with this you're going to be. Set aside some time every week to consult your client versus just training them, and then just practice. Nothing is going to be able to replace that.